Hello and thank you for joining me. My name is Mike Roberts and welcome to this snippet from the Song of Solomon. This is our 26th snippet. We're making our way verse by verse through the book of the Song of Solomon. We're watching a wonderful romance unfold between King Solomon and his bride, the Shulamite maid. And as we've discussed before, King Solomon represents Jesus and his bride represents you and me. So this story is full of wonderful parallels that talk about our relationship with Jesus and our walk with him. We've just finished chapter 2, and that brings us to the very start of chapter 3. And in the last two verses of chapter 2, we get to see they have a very special, intimate encounter. And she invites him to come and experience her in an intimate way. And she invites him to come to a place that only he can come to. And she begins to see from experience how wonderful he is and how good he is. And we see that she can now answer questions from her time with him that she didn't know the answer to before. She now knows where he pastures his flocks because she's been there with him. And she's been walking with him closely and intimately. And that brings us to the start of chapter 3. And here, seemingly, things begin to change. The Shulamite maid is talking here, and she closed out the end of chapter 2, and she's still talking here as chapter 3 begins. And let's remember, they had just finished having a wonderful, intimate encounter, and now she says, "On my bed, night after night, I sought him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but did not find him." So imagine how she was feeling. Here they've been together. She's come to know him. They're married. They're man and wife. They're walking very closely together. And here she is looking night after night, but she can't seem to find him. They've had a wonderful time together, but now he seems to have withdrawn and she can't find him. And I'm not sure about you, but I can relate to that. There have been times in my walk with Jesus I've had just wonderful times where his presence was very real to me. I could hear his voice very clearly. I felt his love. And then I've had seasons where I felt like he was a million miles away. I felt like my prayers weren't getting anywhere. The heavens were brass. And I wondered, is he mad at me? Have I done something wrong? What's happening? So I can relate to how she felt here in verse 1 of chapter 3. But let's keep reading, though. We're going to see how she responded and how we should respond in those seasons. So she says, "I must arise now and go about the city. In the streets and in the squares, I must seek him whom my soul loves." So as opposed to getting depressed about it and getting confused and feeling rejected, she says, no, I'm going to seek him even harder. I'm going to pursue him with all of my heart. I'm going to press in until I find him. Then she says, "I sought him, but did not find him. The watchmen who make the rounds in the city found me, and I said, 'Have you seen him whom my soul loves?' Scarcely had I left them when I found him whom my soul loves. I held on to him and would not let him go, until I had brought him to my mother's house, into the room of her who conceived me," which again speaks of a very intimate and private place. So she decided, although I can't feel his presence as closely as I have in previous times, I'm not going to stop here. I'm not going to let that feeling deter me. I'm going to press in harder than ever. And she got up from her bed, left her house, went out at nighttime, a time she probably shouldn't have been out ordinarily. But she said, I'm determined to find him. And she would not give up until she had. And when she found him, she clung to him tightly and would not let him go. And I've learned, and it's not easy to walk through those seasons where he feels like he's a million miles away. But the Bible tells us, and God himself has told us many times, I will never leave you. I'll never fail you. I'll never forsake you. So we know, even though it feels like he's a million miles away, he really isn't. And I've learned through walking through these kind of seasons before that oftentimes when I feel like he's the furthest away, it's actually when he's the closest to me. And I believe he designs those kind of seasons to cause us to dig deeper. A tree during a time of drought will sink its roots even deeper to find the water, and our relationship with Jesus is deepened the same way. We have those times like those mountaintop experiences where we feel his presence very closely. We can hear His voice, and the revelation He gives us is so wonderful. His presence is very tangible and sweet and real to us. And then we have those times, it's like the dark valley where we don't know where He is. We're praying and nobody seems to be listening. We worship, but it's hard. But in those times, those are the times that our relationship with Him is strengthened, it's deepened, and we can experience Him in a way there that we can't always experience Him on those mountaintop experiences. So I want to encourage us with this. Her response to that season is what yours and mine should be as well. When He seems to be 1,000,000 miles away, let's run 1,000,000 miles and find Him. Let's determine we're going to press in even harder until we find Him. And when we do, like her, we're not going to let go until we take Him back to an intimate spot with us once again.